the 5th of December. I keep saying this, the month is gone really, really fast already. 20 days until Christmas, so getting your Christmas shopping for the big day. Bobby says hello. Hello, Bobby. Straight in there. Bobby is a legend of this channel. Give some love to Bobby and to this community as well. This is the best community on YouTube. We may not be the smallest, we won't be the biggest, but we certainly are the best. So get in there and be respectful to the chat, be respectful to yourselves, and be respectful to me. Otherwise, the ban hammer does come out, but we don't like to do it. But we will do it if we have to. Banter is perfectly acceptable. We don't mind banter on here. We do have some amazing rival fans. We do have some really, really good banter on here as well. Danny, legend of the chat, salute you, sir. We find ourselves back here again after the show this afternoon, earlier this afternoon, which again, I think these shows where we've been honest about this club, I think is really, really important to have those conversations. Second of all, I'm not a dictator of this chat. Oh, God, I've got to move this already. I'm not a dictator of this chat. The reasons why these shows take so long is because I genuinely do read out your comments and your chats. I really believe in that. It's really important for you guys to have your opinion. We did a fantastic show last night where I think people just had enough. People just came on here and vented their frustrations, and I was really, really, really proud of the show last night. People were annoyed. And the one thing I will say is that people on here were absolutely fantastic. We may not always agree on the opinions, but it was no toxicity against each other last night. I was really, really impressed with that last night. I have seen some other channels and some other chats, and the one thing that I'll say is you guys are fantastic on here. So look, get in your opinions. I really do read them and I do respect them. Bobby says, JB, what baffles me is why have the Glazers gone quiet on the sell? We will be united again if the Glazers sold us. So before we get into the conference, I basically have it word for word here, and we can go through that. What is clear today before we talk about that is basically the media are after Amorin. I think that's very, very clear. I think the naivety of Amorin will get the better of him. But look, we will go through it. I've got it word for word. Amorin got a bit animated. Amorin is not happy, and we'll go through that as well. One of the things, Bobby, I think we've spoken about this before on here in regards to the sale, right? So the last time we were up for sale is basically the Glazers had to sell, so they had to make it vocal and in the public eye, because basically they needed to sell or investment. Oh, this bloody camera, right? Here we go. So it was done in the public arena. Now, the difference this time will be is that you're not going to hear about it. You are not, and Danny, you're right. Sir Ratcliffe, he came to the rescue. He shouldn't have stuck his nose in our business, but he did. But the one thing to note is if there's any sell that will happen, and it is Danny, it is secret handshakes. Sir Jim came into this club for one reason and one reason only: investment. Uses influence in the governments to get this regeneration over the line. That's the only reason why he's here. So people can pretend, but we all know the reason why he's here, and he thinks we're stupid. So the thing is, Bobby, what's going to happen is that we're not going to know. I think there are things to consider here, and I'll go through some of the factors in my view. Number one is this consortium. Do I believe there's a consortium? Yes. The problem is that we all assume that every consortium is full of billionaires, right? This consortium may be a case of they actually need investment. They actually themselves need to put a consortium together to buy the club. A club is not going to cost $1 billion or $2 to buy. This club is going to cost somebody probably north of $6 billion. I'd probably even say touching 8. You know, by the time they buy the Glazers out, you know, it's $33 per share, and that's not just for Sir Jim. That is for the Glazers. That is for every other shareholder as well. So it's gonna cost to buy everybody out six billion, right? Then we're talking about a stadium. That's probably another 2. We're talking between 8 to 10 billion. So and another reason why it's gone quiet as well, you know, you've got to consider the connotations for the Saudis. If it is the Saudis, there are human rights, you know, to think about. They need the right personas. They need the right backing from players as well. And also, this will be a business transaction. You know, when companies buy out other companies, because this is what this will be, you don't hear about it until the sale happens. So it's quiet. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It's just that we're not going to hear about this for quite some time. So I wouldn't get your hopes up just yet. The only thing that I will say is once United break ground on the regeneration project, forget about it. There is no sale. So I would say just keep an eye on it. There will be indicators, but it's gone quiet. That's a perfectly normal thing, because this is going to be a normal business transaction, and we will see in time. So it has gone quiet, but sadly this time round nobody is going to know if and when it happens. So I just think we've got to have faith. Barada Wilcox could get the axe along with Amorin, says Danny. I don't disagree, mate. I think they should. Ineos coming in to sink the ship. Phoenix Caliber says Amorin thought the game was won at 1-0. Takes off Xerxes Cunha and brings on Ugarte instead of Mainu. What the F? Again, get in your opinions. DJ, hi JB. I'm guessing you are as depressed as us with that shower last night. I'm not too far off, my friend. Thanks, JB. Legend, my friend. Let me just have a little look. Yeah, doesn't matter. So look, guys, we're going to get into the press conference again. I urge you to get in your opinions. We can't stop talking about this. We've got to keep on every show now, even if we're doing a watch long like today when we're talking about the conference. We absolutely have to keep on talking about this sort of stuff. So let's go for the conference. Dida says across all of our fan base, boos all around. Sadly, it is. And again, I actually don't think us or fans know who to boo. I think, you know, what I was quite surprised at last night when we did the poll, it was 60-40 in favour of Amorin out. I genuinely thought it would probably be 80-20, 90-10 in favour of Amorin out. It really pleases me to see. Look, we're in our darkest ebb right now, and there are 60% who want him out, 40% who want him out. It's quite equal. So it really pleases me, really, that there's definitely a shift in the fan base, but I don't think people have lost faith in the manager just yet. So let's get on to the press conference. All I'm going to say is I've watched the press conference. Amorin was a bit spiky. I don't blame him in some respects, but the media, look, the media are clearly out for him. The media have come for him. I wanted to back him, but can't anymore. Look, Danny, my friend, I don't, mate. I cannot. You know, I can't disagree with that statement. I don't agree with it. I don't disagree with it. I think now this is the time where you guys have to. I think this is a time now where it's oh, got a bombshell breaking from Indicator. Yeah, whatever. This is the time now I think you have to draw a line in the sand. It doesn't mean we can't be a united fan base. I think the united fan base has to come in that we all want the Glazers out. I think that is a united, agreed front. But anything beyond that, I think it's a case of, I think you've got to go now with what you believe in, and I think people just have to accept that. Amberint's, sorry, Matt, I can't pronounce that. Glory to Man United. Yes, my friend. Hello. Hope you're doing extremely well. So let's get on to the first part of the conference. Let's look at the questions that were asked, and I'll give you the context of what Amorin said as well. So he said, when you look at this was asked, when you look at the senior squad, I think there are only 4 players who've not started a Premier League game this season. One's Tom Heaton, their choice goalkeeper. Malacia, last year the club were open to selling him. Lissandro has just come back from injury. I mean, for Kobbie Mainoo, can you see it must be quite deflating and demoralising for him? So, complete loaded question here. There were 4 players, and this was a purposely thought out question. Tom Heaton, the third choice keeper. Malacia, the club were going to sell him. Lissandro has just come back from injury. Kobbie Mainoo, can you see why he's so deflated and demoralising for him? Now look, whether or not we think Kobbie Mainoo should be playing or not, a loaded question. English bias already. Nobody's talking about the Grimsby game. You're right. I think Kobbie Mainoo is very, very divisive topic right now. Amorin's response to that is, I see it. I just want to win. I try to put the players. I don't look at who it is. I don't care about that. I'm just trying to put out the best players on the pitch. You have Ugarte that played 2 games. One of them, Cass, was out. Bruno is always fit and is the guy who is doing his position. So maybe it has to do with that. Sally says, what is wrong with these journalists, the lowest IQ ever mentioning Lacey? We have to be 3 up to bring on Lacey. And, Sully, legend, my friend, hope you're doing extremely well. We'll get through. And I've got the questions here word for word. Sully, the problem is now is that the media are out for Amorin. They're going to load the questions up, right? These are now the loaded questions. The fact they are now talking about, the fact that the first question was Tom Heaton, the third choice keeper. Malacia was going to be sold. Lissandro's injured. Kobbie. And I get it. I get the Kobbie question, but there is so much more to this team than a Kobbie Mainoo. I think, as we've said in the last show, Kobbie Mainoo is not going to fix this team. Kobbie Mainoo, could you bring something? I think the Kobbie Mainoo point right now isn't a relevant point. The question is, if it's Kobbie Mainoo, it has to be Kobbie and others. It can't just be one player. It has to be, if we change that position, what else will change around it as well? Johnny says, I want the media to keep asking Amorin about Mainoo because there's absolutely no justifications for Amorin to not use Mainoo, and Amorin looks so agitated trying to defend his own BS. And Johnny, I mean, look, I that's an interesting question. My take on it is this, and look, I like the different opinions. I like the fact that people don't always have to agree. I mean, I am Amorin in, right? But again, I think from your perspective, if you want to know that answer, I can't disagree with it. Do I want Kobbie to play? Well, yes. We all saw what Kobbie Mainoo was about the season from last. Yes, he sort of had a bad season. But when you've got Bruno Fernandes playing in the wrong position, and you've got a player who clearly wants to play, a player who was a young player, it's not as if Mainoo hasn't played. It's not as if Mainoo hasn't come in for a season and made a difference. It's not as if Mainoo didn't play for England. What this is about is Amorin doesn't want to play him. Zimmerman says Leeds plays better than United. I don't disagree. Alex totally agrees. So Ferguson would have thrown on the kids if the chips were down. So he says, I don't know why most fans are not underestimating Kobe. Will make 9 difference, just a bit better at holding the ball. The Kobe main situation is so large because he isn't just about Kobe. It's about the DNA. It's about the academy, and I think the way the club handled the main situation will determine the future of the academy. I think Johnny. I think you raise a very, very good point. You can aim many things at Eric Ten Hag, but I don't think what you can aim at him is not playing the youth. Now, I think that, and we will get on to the Lacey thing as well, because he did mention the Lacey thing as well. But I think you've got a good point. We are buying these youth players in. You look at what the youth did to the Liverpool team. They beat them 7-0, was it? You've got young players coming through, but Johnny, this is the problem for me with these young players, right? We used to have a settled team. Grace says, hit the like button if you want Wolves to sack Amorin. Legend. So this is I'm not disagreeing with the comment, and I completely respect it. This is the problem for me with bringing in the youth, right? When we brought through some of these youth players, and you can talk about Makeda, Cleverly, Neville's, Giggsy, Scholes, Beckham, Keane, Beckham, Scholes, Bart, Neville, Makeda, right? The reason why they succeeded to a degree was because we had a first team full of international leaders. So these youth players come into the side and they were able to make mistakes. They were able to make errors because they had senior players around them to protect these players. The problem with the academy players, I don't think it's anything to do with the quality of the academy players. We are suffering from the players that we've bought. We're suffering from this. We don't have the environment to bring these youth players through. Now, I want the youth players to come through, but we can't, you can't be fooled in thinking that we bring in this youth and they're gonna suddenly be these amazing players. It may happen, but people forget the likes of Gary Neville, the likes of Philip Neville, Giggsy, Scholes, they come into a team of Dennis Irwin, Pallister, Bruce, Schmeichel at the back, Roy Keane, Paul Ince, Kanchelskis, Cantona. What are these players going to come into? Lacey is going to come into a Old Trafford, a crowd who are beyond these players, who despise these players. Lacey's going to come into this team, and where's going to be his support? Now, you're going to have these teams like West Ham who will target him, right? If somebody jumps up with him and knocks him to the ground, who's going to go up to those players and protect him? Who's going to go and have a right go and probably start pushing and fighting and arguing against these senior pros, against these young players? Johnny, I do not disagree with you, but the one thing I do disagree with is that we don't have protection. We don't have an environment to safely bring these players through. United haven't been United for 10 years. I agree with you. Kobe mainly would have made more of an impact off the bench than Ugarte. Amorin got it wrong. It's like the Gabriel stuff now. The club seem to be doing everything to try to convince the kid to stay, but I guarantee he's probably at home watching the first team and seeing what Amorin's doing. If we let JJ go, it will be like losing a young Messi. They'd be able to make the errors today. Because it would be no different to who they would replace. JB, I'll always remember Gary saying, me and Phil had no talent and we worked damn hard. Agree, but I think it also helps having senior pros around you. Now, DJ, when it comes to the Gabriel stuff, right? So JJ, right? You know, I'm not going to go into this too much, right? And yes, you know, we are talking about these sort of young players. He's 15 years old, right? You know, the expectation is already super high. How many players, you know, Angel Gomez, Hannibal Maybury, you know, Agana, you know, we've had so many of these players who are going to be the next big thing. We can argue, has the club, you know, they've brought these players down. My observation on this is that I want to bring the youth through, but I refuse to burn them. I refuse to associate our young players with this team. You know, I refuse. You know, we've got Kobe Mainu, right? A talented kid, and he's still a kid. A talented young man. Absolute talented, right? Beyond his years. We saw it. 18 years old, a talented kid, right? And he's being burnt by this club. I refuse to bring fantastic young players who need that experience through in this pile of shit mess. I absolutely cannot. Benger's in the house, legend. Benger, of course, he is. I refuse. I refuse to bring in these youth players. I would rather send these youth players out on loan, get experience and work with some really professional teams, right? This is what I would rather, right? Do like an Amas, right? Go and surround them with professional players, right? At decent clubs. Good morning, JB. It's snowing here in Washington. Amazing. I do love snow. Mooney says thoughts on Manu in this current state of the club. Look, Manu for me is this, right? I think somebody has. I think Sully, I think it was, or has summed this up right. You know, Kobe Manu. Could he do worse than what he's playing now? No. What's the worst that is going to happen if you play Kobe Manu? What is the worst that will happen? Is he going to be any worse? Is he going to make this team worse? No. Johnny says, I agree with the point that you've made. However, with Manu, I think it's different because he's already proved for it. Amorin came in, he was good enough to start for United and England at his age. Johnny, and I agree. I agree with that. I think Manu is a different kettle of fish because Manu has proved it. Okay, Manu, I leave him out because I do agree that he is different. He has already proved it. You know, he has proved himself. He's already proved the fact that he's played for England. He's played on the international stage and looked absolutely fine. He's already done it, right? And young players, you know, last season did he have the best season? No, but there are reasons for that. Young players are going to be up and down. And my problem, Johnny, here is that Amorin is more than happy to call out Manu. He's more than happy to call out Dorgu. He's more than happy to call out a Yoro, a Heaven. Why don't you call out Fernandez? Why don't you call out Luke Shaw? Why don't you call out these players who are not playing well? Ugarte, you know, call him out. You know, he's been awful. He's been horrific. Brown Knight says, what did I miss? So look, that was him on that. So the next thing that was mentioned as well, and this was, do you think the AFCON could be an opportunity for Kobe? So that was the second Kobe loaded question. Grace says, can Amorin play Manu on Monday after his press conference? He will look like a hypocrite if he plays him. Grace, he's not playing him. He's not playing him. You know, after the comments here, Kobe Mainu is going to go. Kobe Mainu is going to go. What kind of music are you into? I like a bit of noughties rock. I like a bit of indie sort of music. Oasis, Blur, Linkin Park, Fall Out Boy, Five Finger Death Punch, all sorts of stuff. Dancing and laughing as we all got, Britney Spears and Thierry Henry. So again, look, as much as the Kobe thing is going to be a divisive thing, right? But the IQs now of these press people, instead of asking the right questions, they're now just poking about it. They're using the Kobe Mainu thing to wind Amorin up, and Amorin is biting on this. Johnny says you're spot on. Just like some fans, we say it's a selective outrage. Amorin's doing the same thing, but with the players. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, West Ham scored from the corner, and it doesn't even matter. Brown Knight, legend. I love it. So the second thing he was asked is, do you think the AFCON could be an opportunity for Kobe? And Amorin said this: I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's the same situation. I don't know what is going to happen. It depends. I see the training. I see what is best for the team. I will put it in the team. That is the only way I know how to respond. It tells you everything that you need to know there. He doesn't want Kobe Mainu in this team. Amorin is going to live and die on the decisions that he's making now. The fact that he's always bigging up Bruno, the fact that he's avoided, he's bigging everybody up, and he's refusing to play Kobe Mainu. He's not playing him. He's not going to. He's even said, anything can happen. He's going to try and improve. And he says, I see what's best for the team. I see him in training. I will put it in the team. This is the only way I know how to respond to that. And he says, and then another question was asked, Wolves provide some low moments, and at Molineux last season felt like one of the darker moments. How important is it not to take the fact they've not won a game this season for granted because you've just played 18th? Ten Hag did this with Ahmad. He never played him and played Rashi and Garner. And Grace, you look at what Ahmad did. He went away to Sunderland. He went away to two teams, didn't he? Sunderland and somewhere else. And he was all the better for it. Kobe Mainu is not a better 10 than Cunha in Burma or Mount. Linkin Park reference. I understood that, JB. Where are you, Amorin in or Amorin out, etc.? Rangers, yes. It's difficult. Look, I am Amorin in, right? And Amorin in to me doesn't represent maybe what it means to other people. For me, it's not as a literal meaning of Amorin in, right? Because there are things for me that Amorin says and does where I can't defend it. Amorin in for me means, look, we need to do something different. Do we stay on course, and do we say, look, this is the players, or is this the coach? We don't know right now. I am Amorin in because I have to do something different. How do we break the cycle? This is probably more for me. Who do I dislike the most? Do I dislike the players more, or do I dislike the coach more? What for me is the common theme, right? And this probably sums it up, right? Is this: some of these players, not all of them, have sacked multiple managers. Okay, I can't stand these players. I cannot stand this team. I dislike these players. I dislike them all. There's a couple of them, the sort of new players that they've only been here a short time, so they get a free pass, right? I can't stand these players. Okay, I can't stand these players more than I dislike the coach. So for me, it has to be the players, right? So therefore, I want the manager here to see what he can do. Give Amorin a team. Give him what people forget. And I think this is what's being missed. But look, this is just my opinion. You guys have got your opinions on it, and I think that you are right to make up your own minds on this, right? I'm not here to dissuade you from your opinion. I'm here to actively encourage you to give your opinion, right? I want to see this manager be given a team. I want to see this coach be given a team. Whilst I can admit his team selections are baffling, the squad depth isn't there. The squad depth simply isn't there. So I want to see this coach be given a team. I want to see this coach be given a proper clear out of these players. I want to see this coach be given a team, because I don't want to sack another coach with an excuse. Okay? Amorin can leave this club and say, I wasn't given my players. If I sack another coach, I want to be, we've given him the opportunity. We've given him every opportunity to succeed. Amorin cannot have excuses. Let's just say, for example, next season, we give him, Mary says hi. Hello, Mary. I hope you're doing extremely well. If we give him 2 midfielders, another striker, a wing back, and Amorin is still doing the same thing, sack him. I've got no problem. I've got no problem in sacking the manager if he gets given his team and he's still bad. But we have to give him time. I think let's be something different here. If we sack him, a new coach comes in, has to work with these players. The cycle continues. The cycle will continue and continue and continue. Let's go with some of these comments. Brown Knight says, Kobe Manu is not a better CDM than Ugarte, although my nan is better than Ugarte, and she's been dead for 6 years. Is Bruno still captain? Sadly, yes, he is. DJ says, I don't think Amorin has the testicles to handle the Premier League. I'm not too far off thinking the same. Gray says he's stubborn. Nobody likes his formation and system. He don't rate the youth. He needs a new team. He can't coach. He picks players that have sacked multiple managers. Why the hell is he still here? And again, Grace, what I like, Grace, is, and what I respect the most is, you've got people like yourself who actually give context to their opinions, right? Who don't just say Amorin out, let's get him out, right? You justify your position. You don't have to, but you justify your position with points, and they're all valid points. To answer that, for those of you who are Amorin out, the reason why Amorin is still here is because Ineos failed at Nice. Ineos cannot fail here. They know if they get this wrong and it fails, it's going to be a disaster. And I don't see how they can continue. So Ineos, I think, as we've said on here, is that we could have a situation whereby you've got these limited players who don't want to play the system. They can't play the system. A manager who's stubborn, who wants them to play the system. He can't adapt. He's very, very young. He's come from the Portuguese league. Maybe he's not the guy, but he can't leave. And then you've got Ineos who won't do anything about it because they can't fail. So you could have, again, and I think it's sort of like heading that way, where you've got this toxic mess of there has to be a parting of ways, but Ineos refuse to do it because they want to save face. Grace says, but the players he wanted didn't come, JB. And Grace, and again, like we're gonna I'm gonna have to, as an Amorin inner, I'm gonna have to come to this acknowledgement, right? Is that if Ineos are not prepared to get Amorin his players, and he wants these players to stay, and this club are not going to get rid of the players that they should do, and these players are not going to get into the system. Amorin is not going to get his players. If that is the case, sack him. Get rid of him. There is no point. There is no point trying to get a manager to play a style of football that he can't play. Look, I am coaching. I want this to work. But Grace, you've got a point. Like, if Amorin can't get his players to come here, and Ineos are not going to sanction the players that he needs, sack him, because there's no point sacking. Look, if Ineos don't want to invest and the Glazers don't want to invest, and all they want to do until the stadium is built is build a mediocre side, keep and retain the same players, go and get a Southgate. I don't want it. I don't want it to happen, but put people out of their fucking misery, for God's sake, because there is no point in this. It's basically being like you're married to somebody, they don't like you, you hate them and they hate you, but you refuse to part ways. You're never going to be happy. It's never going to work. But for whatever reason, you stay together. You can't accept it. Part ways. If it's not going to work, there's nothing wrong from Amorin's perspective, right? If you're not going to give the guy his players, because he is a special... they went to Amorin. They decided, Ineos, in their wisdom, to go and get a coach, a young coach from a Portuguese league. He needed special players. He needed a system. If you were not going to give him his players, and you're going to expect a coach to use these players, go and get a coach who can do something with this bag of shit. Because there is no point. If your mandate, Ineos, is to basically, bring in youth players to farm them out, to maybe farm them into this team and then maybe farm them out again. If your strategy is to keep Luke Shaw, your strategy is to keep Fernandez until he's 40. If your strategy is to basically play Mount, who's injured, to keep Lissandro, to keep Casemiro, get a manager that's going to do it. I just don't see the point. I don't see the point. The truth as an outsider, that was sad. I agree with you. That's what we need, JB, a manager that can work with the current players. Johnny says, I understand the stance. However, my biggest worry is that we sign players. Amorim continues to ostracise our youth academy talents, and that doesn't develop the players. Johnny, you're right, mate. Look, again, I can't argue with that point. And again, you make a good case for this. It depends on what the vision is, right? If this club, and look, let's take Liverpool for example, right? They played Jurgen Klopp, right? Football. They played that sort of style, right? So therefore, the style is a Liverpool style. So Jurgen Klopp set up the style. Liverpool like that style, and Liverpool want to keep that style up. So Liverpool now are hiring a coach, not to bend to the coach's way. They want a coach who wants to play Liverpool style of football. So they're not suddenly gonna hire a coach who plays a back six, right? They're not suddenly gonna hire a coach that plays a back five and go, this is the team, sort it out. We need, as a club, to decide what we want. This scattergun approach. This club needs to define what it is and get a coach to suit that style. Whether we like it or not, whether I like it or not, I can't stand these players. But if these are the players that we've got, you need a coach in the interim. and I can't stand this, but you need a coach in the interim, because if Ineos are not going to change these players, and this is something that I need to accept as well. If Ineos are not going to change these players and there's nothing we can do, go and get a sodding coach that can play this system. Go and get a coach that's going to coach these players, these average players, these low IQ players. Just bite the bullet and do it now, because this experiment is just not going to work. Amorin is lean though. Southgate would do a better job. His foot was rubbish. JB, what the hell has happened to Shesko? Or what is the nature? He's got an ankle injury, I believe. So he says, if we get midfielders and he still plays Bruno in the midfield, only that will make me say Amorin out. For now, it's on the players to show up. Sally, and again, I have to give the both sides, right? You know, I can give you my position. My position right now is Amorin in, basically for the same thing. Grace, I'm glad that you did that, my friend. Grace, thank you. If the coaching wasn't working, how our set piece numbers bar the last go has been great. If coaching wasn't working, how our set piece numbers bar the last go has been great. Big up, dude. I think most of us are perplexed. Look, and again, to play the both sides, because I've got to be fair on here, right? You know, my position is Amorin in, because I despise these players. I can't look people who are Amorin out. This is the place to come as well, because I totally get it, right? I'm not trying to cater to the masses, but right now there is a point, right? So Amorin's already said he wasn't involved in the set pieces. Thank Carlos Fernandez for the set pieces. Like, what has Amorin done? You know, I do believe that Amorin has instilled a discipline in these players. Whether these players respond or not, like I will say this for the first time, is that I don't think, despite I can't stand these players. I can't stand these players, but I don't think they're down in tools. I don't think they are. I just think they can't play this system. I just think these players have been shown up for what they are. Palace legend, and I hope you are doing extremely well, my friend. These players have been shown for what they are, but who always takes the brunt? The people that take the brunt of this are always going to be the coaches. And are we going to do this again? Right? Are we going to sack Amorin, bring in another coach, and in 18 months' time say we should have kept the manager? Are we going to be that team, or are we going to break the side? Look, there is nothing. There's nothing wrong right now in being angry at the coach. There's nothing wrong in aiming anger at the coach, right? There's nothing wrong in aiming anger and being angry at the players, right? But can we not just take stock of where we are? Can we not just go, look, we have tried this again. We've bought players, they've not played well. We've sacked the coach. We've bought more players, brought in another manager. The players have sacked him. Like, how many times are we going to do this? The only thing that I ask from those who are Amorin out, right? Tell me, and you don't have to tell me, but who comes in? Who do we get, right? That is not going to want their own team. Who do we get that is going to come in to work with these players? Who's going to come in? So here's a remit, right? I'll give you what I think. So Grace says a De Zerbi. I asked for names. Blimey, imagine Wayne Rooney, Bex, Keenan and Scholes as interns. So I'm going to give, so Grace has already given a name. I'm going to give you a mandate, which is not unreasonable. This is my own mandate. Are you a Harry Maguire fan? Lloyd, I think it's a bit of a. Am I a Harry Maguire fan? Look, any player that plays for this club, I want to be a fan of. I don't do player FC. I am not a fan of any player. Okay, I'm not a fan of any player. I would just want to respect this team. Okay, what I admire about Harry Maguire is his ability to come back, is the ability to actually, when I think about the things that he's done, look, his mentality is not a patch on Beckham's goals gigs, right? But given the climate of this side, I am impressed with Maguire and how he's managed to come back and how he's managed to gain that respect back. So I would say I respect him rather than favourite player. None of these players in this team are my favourite players, and I don't do that sort of support. Anybody getting the Amorin calendar? I might, Grace. Amorin needs an assistant, Sir Alex Ferguson. Let me see if let me catch all this stuff up. Manager always takes the blame. I get that, but we're going around in circles because of our players on board. Sully. De Zerbi. What have we got? Johnny Hill. Every manager will want their own players for sure. I can see that point, but it seems to me the only players Amorin wants at United are the ones the fans don't want. It's the reason we are frustrated, because it's wide open. How Xavi, Nagelsmann, Arteta, Iriola, Simeone or Conte for me. Sully says Simeone, he needs a new challenge and would get us consistently top four. Simeone 4-4-2. I'm a United fan. Simeone is not coming to the Premier League. So before we get on with the press conference, I'm going to give you my mandate, and you tell me, So the mandate is, for now, I want to finish in the top four. Okay, I want to compete in the Champions League. I want to win at least a cup every season, so whether it's an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup. I want to be competitive. I want the football to be competitive. Also, you need to do it within a budget, and you're also going to need to work with these players. Who's going to come in and work with these players? Who's going to come in with a limited amount of cash to spend? Who's going to be able to do that, get us a top four Champions League every single season? And I'm talking about Luke Shaw here. I'm talking about these sorts of players. Who's going to do that? That's what I'm asking here. DJ says, let's go to Sully. Matt LFC says, hello again. Good evening to you, Matt. Hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. Johnny says, by the way, people are saying they want Simeone to learn. If they don't like Amorin's negative football, they won't want Simeone. Should have tried for Nuno. Interesting. Okay, so let's get on to the next part of this. Okay, so he was then asked this question, right? So he was then asked, do you understand why we ask about Kobe? Because he's homegrown. So again, 4 questions. The third, 1, 2, and the 4th question were asked about Kobe Mainoo, right? If this is not winding up a coach, I don't know what is. Amorin says that yes, of course, I understand, and my job is to answer, but I'm trying to answer always the same thing. and you ask me always the same thing. I understand what you are saying. You love Kobe. He starts for England, but that doesn't mean I need to put Kobe in when I feel that I shouldn't put Kobe in. So it's my decision. That tells you everything that you need to know about the media. It tells you everything you need to know about the coach. My biggest worry, says Johnny, Sigma says Pep to United. Not in a million years, my friend. Johnny Hill says, my biggest worry, though, is that I don't think the higher-ups care about the academy DNA anymore. If they did care, it wouldn't force Amorin into giving them more minutes. And Johnny, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about before, right? About club philosophy. Hit the likes and not the pipes. Not Brett May, legend. Not Brett May. I still blame you for the West Ham goal yesterday. It's all your fault. Don't blame Amorin. Not Brett May is the reason why we conceded that goal. His timing of his comment was absolutely perfect. So I'll blame you, my friend. All those who are Amorin out, please explain how Amorin is responsible for not being able to pass or the awful touch. So, and to go back to Johnny's where he basically says that you don't think that higher ups care about that, and I think this goes to back to what we were saying, is that this club needs to define what they are. No, we let the managers define what this club is. Liverpool now, and I keep talking about them because, and Arsenal now to a point as well, they know what they are. They know what the club is. They don't bring in a manager to dictate where the club goes. Liverpool dictate the manager and dictate what the manager plays. The remit, and if you've ever played FIFA or a management game, right, the board set the criteria. The board mandate what the expectation is of the manager. The board should set out a mandate that you have to look, and I fully accept that you can't shackle a manager and tell him what to do, because at that point he just becomes a puppet, right? But if I was this board, my mandate would be you have to try to bring players through reasonably. If these players are good, it is the philosophy of this club that you bring through youth players. You play the youth players and you bring through within a reason. So, you know, if we get the youth players and they're not particularly great, and this crop of players are not great, fine. You don't have to bring them through. But when you've got a Lacey and you've got a Fletcher, you know, who are decent players, right? The mandate should be, this is our club. You come into our club, and our philosophy is we play youth players. And I'm not just talking about putting in them for the sake of it. If that's what our club is, mandate it. You know, if you interview a candidate and you say, our mandate is you have to play some of the youth for 50%, right? And the manager says no, then just don't hire him. Because then if he signs a mandate and you say, look, I want us to win the Premier League, I want us to play the youth, I want us to do this, blah, 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 and he doesn't achieve those mandates, you're then within your right to sack him. But the club has to dictate who we are. We let coaches dictate what this club is. Champions League team, says Neil Boz, Sully, but I think the issue is the players being able to keep the ball and have a good touch. Then further highlights the fact that Manu should play. I am Amorin, lol. When it comes to Manu, Jenny, I'm thinking position, yes, he hold the ball more. I've already said that, but he can't spray passes or defend too. We had the same issue. I'm not against Monu starting. Bruno, imagine nothing will change. It's between you and Sully. It's funny how JB, even though we were all depressed with the comments, it's funny that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Can't defend when you see that. So let's get on to the next part of the conference. Basically said another comment that was made. He okay. So and again, this is basically the media, right? I'm going to go through the questions. I'm not going to put his response, but I'll then go to a bit. So these were the first 4 questions. When you look at the senior squad, I think there were 4 players who have not started the a Premier League game. Tom Heaton, Malacia, Lissandro and Kobe. Can you see how that is deflating for him? Do you think AFCON could be an opportunity for Kobe? Do you understand why we ask about Kobe because he's homegrown? Somebody then asked, it does feel, though, for all you say about the academy, that you don't actually trust the academy. Amorin said, why? And the response was, because you never pick any from there. Any players, we have Kobe Manu. Now, at this point, Amorin got quite a bit spiky. So let me just read that again. And again, I think we need to be pragmatic here and think about this, right? The media now are coming for this coach. The question was, or the comment was, it does feel, though, for all you say about the academy, that you don't actually trust the academy. Why? Because you never pick any players from there. Any players, we have Kobe Manu. It was then said, Lacey. Amorin then goes off on one and then basically says, but Lacey, it's a difficult situation, and Lacey sometimes with Brian is not there. I put Ahmed there because I have other wing backs to play and sometimes it's hard. So you asking me why I don't put Lacey to play when I have other guys who are international and also they are the bench. So I try to put out the best guys, the prepared guys for the moment of this club and try to win a game. That is the only thing. Amorin was absolutely he was off on one. Now, I would love to know your opinions on that statement. Hang on, let's get through some of this first. Lloyd says it's my birthday next week. I'm cold, Owen, and I live in Harwood. It's my birthday on the 10th of December. Happy birthday for next week, my friend. Come back on here on the 10th, and I will wish you a happy birthday. Sally says Manu is box to box, forward, playmaker, or 10, no legs to defend. Sally, you don't need legs to defend. Rodri has never been fast, same Casemiro. Alex Ferguson says, do you think Amorin is not playing Manu because he's sick of the media keeping on about Manu? I think he's not playing him because he doesn't rate him. Whether or not we do, I think Amorin feels he doesn't fit the system. Now I think he's not playing him because of the media. Manu will just be as ineffective as Bruno, and Amorin would rather play Bruno. You guys sorry, let me just go through that bit again, okay? So the media said it does feel, though, for all you say about the academy, that you don't actually trust the academy. Amorin said, why? Because you never pick any of the players from there. Any players, we have Kobe Manu. Lacey, but Lacey is difficult. And Lacey sometimes, when Brian is not there, I put Ahmed there because I have other wing backs to play, and sometimes it's hard. So you were asking me why I don't play Lacey to play when I have other guys that are internationals, and also they are in the bench. So I try to put the best guys, the prepared guys for the moment of the club, and try to win a game. That's the only thing, guys. Johnny says, to be fair, that's a fair question to ask, though. If Amorin comes out and says he doesn't trust the academy players, he will get pelters, but at least he wouldn't look dishonest. Amorin refers to Bruno's sixth position as the 8. If Amorin is sacked, then Ineos needs to go. We've been worse since they've taken over the football structure. With Casemiro in the pivot, Manu won't know different. It's a fact. Want anybody in that midfield? So, I mean, what do I think about that? Look, I think Amorin there is in a difficult situation, right? I'm not going against what Amorin has said there. I think that Amorin has to answer that question. Now my reasoning for asking that is more so because I think these are loaded questions. These are questions. There are so many more questions. There's so many more layers to this team and to this club. But this media again are focusing on one thing. This is the Rashford thing all over again. Kobe Manu, whether we like Kobe Manu or not, whether this manager picks Kobe Manu or not, it doesn't make a fucking difference what we do. You could put Lionel Messi in this team. What is Lionel Messi going to do? I think this media now are just trying to wind up the manager. This is what they do. They want a reaction from him. They want him to go. So now they're talking about Kobe Manu when they should be talking about a Bruno Fernandes. They should be talking about a Luke Shaw. They should be talking about the owners. They should be talking about, what do you think that we were going to sign players? What are your plans? Are you going to change the tactics? Not about Kobe fucking Manu. I don't care right now about whether Kobe plays or not. Because Kobe's not going to be the difference maker in this side. That's one player out of 11 players who's not going to make a difference. I think Sully, I think, those are the questions he should be asked. Are you going to change the system? Why are you pursuing with this system? Why do you play the pivot? Now, Amorin talks about control. You don't control games. These are the questions that should be asked. Not, can you see why that we're upset because Kobe Manu isn't playing? I'm not upset. I couldn't give a toss. I can't stand these players. If you're asking me about what is wrong with this club, why are we losing? Why are we playing shit? Why can't Amorin change the system? It's got nothing to do with Kobe Manu. These reporters are now going to that lower level, low IQ, feeding the toxicity now, and this whole that Amorin now for the rest of the season until he plays Manu, which he won't, is just basically going to get absolutely hounded on it. Sully says, I agree on that. If I could have 3 midfields currently United players, I'd actually pick Casemiro, Manu and Mount. Alex Ferguson says, if Amorin does get sacked, I want Eddie Howe in. He's always my number one choice for the last 4 years. Interesting. That's why the system needs tweaking to 2 up front and wing backs attack, and then the system is fine. People say back 5, but there's no issue with back 3. It's not defensive if your wing backs attack well. Someone didn't ask Amorin about bringing in Ugarte to defend the lead, and after that stat got leaked about goals conceded with Ugarte on the pitch. Sonny says it's just the shape of the pitch. So another thing that was asked, it says, Ruben, when the team has the opportunity this season to step on or push up on the league, to move into the top 4, 5 areas, there seems to always be a setback like tonight. Do you think there's an issue with their belief, their coping with pressure of the moment in these games? Amorin says, I don't know. I think it's clear fact, but I don't think it's a mental thing. I think they're not thinking. We are going... I think they're not thinking we're going for top 5. No. I think it's some moments we play good, sometimes we play bad, and we're not getting the results. The other questions, fine. Look, I can't agree with Amorin on everything that he says. this is a mental issue. This is a low IQ issue. These are players who bottle it. These are players who are thinking about finishing fourth. These are players that are thinking about finishing fifth. These are players that simply cannot do it. And Amorin has to be pragmatic. Amorin he can't throw all of his players under the bus while he's trying to survive. But on that question, I think that's a fair question, and it's true. I don't believe I can't believe him on this. It is a mental issue. It is a mental issue of a magnitude of 10. I think it is an issue that we've suffered from for years. It is horrendous, and I don't agree with him. He's then asked, will Matthias be okay for the next game? I said, I think so. We'll see. Ruben, he says, you've used the word anxious when you've described Dorgu last week. A Delo used the same word after today. How do you go about solving the team maybe feeling anxious when they have 1-0 lead? I said anxious. No, last week you said Dorgu sometimes on the ball. It's obvious, similar. He used the word and said the team felt anxious when they were 1-0 up today. How do you help the team get through the feeling? I don't feel the team was anxious. I feel the environment was a little bit anxious because it's normal. Because we prove in the past when people understand that nothing is certain here, but we don't draw because of that. We draw because of 1 second ball. We have the advantage. We let the corner, and in the corner, and anything can happen. I disagree. Again, Amorin saying there that we lost because of one corner. No, we didn't. We didn't lose because of a corner. We didn't lose because of a corner. We lost because we were awful. Do you think the 3-4-3 is more attacking than a 4-2-3-1? Grace, I think, as Sully, I said there, if you've got wing backs that can actually attack, and you've got you play, I think if you've got wing backs that can attack, and I think you play 2 centre midfielders, you play a cam, and then you play 2. You can play a centre forward, and you can play a second striker that can be a 10. I think you'll have joy of that. Basically the whole time. I think if you remove one of the 10s back and you play, let's just say you go Bruno as that sort of cam, and then you have 2 midfielders, whether it's Casemiro, Ugarte, and Amenu, and you have that 3 there. Excuse me. And then you either have a second striker type and a striker, and you have wing backs that attack. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And I think that's probably equally as attacking as a 4-2-3-1. I think that it's that double pivot. It's that pivot. I believe it's that pivot that absolutely smashes us. We are forgetting Ferguson wasn't a tactical manager. He was a man. Basic instructions, players, ability, instincts, and mentality helped Alex to win titles. Sully, completely agree with you on that one. A front 3 and wing backs is pretty attacking if done right. That's what he did in the 3 wins. We had 2 up front. Chilip Play says, hi JB. Hello Chilip, hope you're doing extremely well. Every time we can go 5th, we bottle it, and typically expected. Exactly. So, look, Amorin's been prodded again. He was then asked, last season you mentioned the squad's physicality. How is it different in Europe compared to the Premier League? Today you've mentioned about a lot of second balls. Do you think your team has the characteristics you're talking about? Oh, we can win second balls. We're winning second balls. And after the goal, we lost a little bit the second ball, especially Matthias. It's moments of the game, and that's why I try to put Manu and Mason Mount, they are aggressive, trying to win the second ball, and that can happen in the moments of the game. He's then asked, so that is a fatigue problem? No, I don't know. Maybe it's more of a tactical than physical. To be prepared for fighting the second ball, maybe because we score a goal, we are a little bit more relaxed. I have the feeling that we had the game under control because the opponent is not ever near our box. I don't know. I have to check. Just on AFCON, do you know now when you're going to have players available? No. With everything, they're just going to play the next game, and that is the only thing I care. You didn't score against Everton here. A right back scored tonight. The front three struggled again tonight. Do you feel that you have enough firepower to see your project through, or is that something you might consider looking at in the January window? No. We need to wait until the next window. We need to see what we're able to do. So I don't know, and I really don't care about that in this moment. I just want to prepare the game with the players that we have, and we have to be better in the next game. The one thing, there are two things for me that I get out of that conference is, number one, the media are out to get him. I think the media have now turned. I think the fan base is turning a bit as well. But I also think that Amorin now is... I don't know what Amorin sees on this pitch. He talks about control of games. He talks about it's not a mentality problem. Amorin, what are you seeing? What are you seeing different to us? We haven't had control of a game this season. The Brighton game, you could probably argue with the Brighton game that you controlled the game, but then you nearly lost control. You were 3-0 up, 3-2, and you managed to win that 4-2. I don't understand what Amorin sees in this team. I'm just going to be honest. I don't understand what he sees in this team. But other than that, I think it's pretty obvious and clear to me that the media are now out for him as well. Let's have a little look. Let's go back through here. I dropped the Beach edit, JB. I tried to tag you, but it didn't let me for some reason. I will take a look at that. I did see something come up, so I will take a look at that. Tulip. The only thing about the 3-4-3, there's no natural third midfielder, unlike a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3. So either 10 has to drop centre back and has to step up, or a wing back comes into the midfield. And Grace, I would much rather have a number 10 come back as a cam. I always feel better having a 3-man sort of midfield. I would almost like a sort of spine. I would go with, if you're looking at a 3, I'd always like more of a defensive. I'd like a defensive CM to sit, and then you have just there. So you've got your CM there. You've then got your centre midfielder there, and then you've then got your cam there, and then you've then got your striker. You can have 2 strikers, or your second striker, or you can have a 10, and then you've got the wing backs. But we have nothing. We just don't have a spine. If we sign a left back and cam this January, I think we'll get 5th. I'm not convinced. Tulip. I'm not convinced. I'm just not convinced. I think if we get some more players in to this side, I just don't know if they're going to be impacted by these players. Ferguson says Ineos failed Amorin in the summer window, only buying 4 players. 2 of them are young prospects. Was a joke. He needed a minimum of 6 players. Alex Ferguson, I agree with you. I've said that Amorin didn't get his players. I know they spent money. Shesko, as much as I do like Shesko, I think there could have been other strikers. Amorin needed two midfielders. Amorin didn't get his players. I think the window was a disgrace. Grace said, we spent over 200 million. Ten Hag got 200 million in his first window. Just bought the wrong positions. Should have got a wing back and a midfielder over 2 or 3 attackers, or we sell Bruno and get a midfielder. We were under no threat for 60 minutes. That's what he meant by control against West Ham. The issues again is not breaking the low block and winning the first half. And Sully, I mean, I completely get that. I completely understand what he's talking about, right? I completely get that he's talking about the control in terms of, West Ham. West Ham were blunt, right? West Ham did not have control of that game, right? And I get it, right? When he's talking about control, he's talking about touches in our half, shots, and all that sort of stuff, right? But you can't rely on a single goal. This is the Premier League. I get it, but you can have all the control in the world. You can control the game for the entire game, and your opponent may not lay a glove, right? But all it takes is a puncher's chance. All it takes is a corner. And as we saw, West Ham didn't really have that many. They didn't have a chance, right? All they needed was one corner. And unless Amorin starts to wrap his head around, you can have the control of the ball all you like. If you don't do anything with that control and you don't score, you don't win games. So look, you can have as much possession and have as much control as you like, but if you don't score fucking goals, mate, and that's not to you, Amorin, if you don't score goals, you can have 90% possession. All a team needs is one corner. We should have brought a wing back and a midfielder in along with the signings, like Anderson at Forest. He did. I mean, Sully, Anderson had a walk in the park. Absolute easy peasy. Wolves without a win all season is perfect timing to play us. It is, Jack. Steve Hannigan says, what do you think the score will be? Ipswich v Coventry. I think Coventry will sneak that, my friend. I do. We spent over 200 million, but if you add on what we sold, we make on wages, we spent around 75 million. So it wasn't that big a window when you add it all up. Ineos are turning us into, I do agree with you, bigger version of Brighton. So look, guys, I'm going to go. Just a quick one to go over the presser today. I won't be back tonight. This is probably, I don't think I will be back tonight. Sally says there's only been 2 interviews lately. He has not said that, not direct quote, but along the lines of players being different in the training and in game. There has been 2 interviews lately. He has not said, not direct quote, but along the lines of players being different in training and in game. Yeah, I mean, Amorin is running out of things to say. I do think that Amorin is running out of things to say. I just think that Amorin is coming to a point now where I think he knows the impact on these players. Now, in the last conference, he was asked, like, how do these players deal? Like, how do these players deal with the fact that they don't win? How do you stop them from getting so low? How do you stop these players from getting into a tailspin? Now, Amorin, I can imagine Amorin having to tuck in these players for bed, giving them a pat on the head and saying, "Come on, guys, it's okay. You lost today. It wasn't your fault. Come on, you'll do better next week. Come on, Fernandez, you come and sit on my knee. Come on, let's have a big cuddle. You are my captain. Now I know you're dog shit, but come on, you can do better next time. Come on, guys, let's have a group hug. It's not your fault. You know, you guys are trying your best. You know, let's try not to be too sad. Oh, what, you want to get paid next week? Okay, okay. So you want your 300k a week? Of course, you've earned your 300k this week. Don't worry about it, guys. Come on, guys. Let's high five. There is no intensity. There is no professionalism. There's just no pride left. As Feng said, I'm not bothered about Manu not playing. Every time he's come off the bench, he's been poor. The last good game was the FA Cup final. So, guys, I am going to go. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Absolutely, you know, I love the chat on here. You know, you guys absolutely come in with your opinions. I think it's so important that we have our different views. You know, you definitely give me food for thought. You know, I like the way that some of us think the same. I like the way I partly think the same as you guys, and we all have our different views. You know, I think it's so important as a community and as a group that we have our different views. I think it's important. You know, that we don't all agree. I don't know. I honestly don't know where we go from here. I don't know. We've got Wolves on Monday away. HM says glory to United, mate. I hope so. I can't wait for a day in the future whereby we actually just play good football. You know, I just want conversations about, you know, we were unlucky today, you know, where we say that one player didn't play great, or one player didn't pull his weight today. We're talking about a whole team. You know, what I keep saying this is that I think we need action. You know, what I think is abundantly clear. Like, and we can talk about pressers, we can talk about players, we can talk about a formation, we can talk about who we're going to sign. Nothing changes unless we get the Glazers out. Nothing will change until we get these cretins out of the club, and the only way we do that is to get them out. The only way we do this is to protest, and we need to find a way to burn, to basically, not literally but figuratively, burn these owners out. And until we do that, we're going to keep having the same conversations. We're going to keep talking about the managers. We're going to keep going on this cycle. We're going to keep sacking managers, blaming players, blaming the managers, arguing amongst ourselves, and nothing's going to change. So look, guys, thank you for being here. As I said, I won't be back tonight. I will be back tomorrow at some point. In the meantime, if you're watching this late, get into the comments. If anything does break, I will be back on. So if the worst happens and Amorin does get the job, I don't think he will. I will be back, of course, and I will report that. So, guys, thank you for being here. You are all legends of this channel. This channel doesn't exist without you guys. And yeah, so thank you. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I will be back tomorrow. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.